Okay, so while I had the camera off, I actually did a couple of things. I pressurized to 10 psi, which was working pretty well. But then I moved the bleeder from up here, went to place it down in a spot that was lower than the reservoir, and just that little movement caused some leakage from around the edge here. So what I did was I took the thing off, unscrewed the wing nuts, moved the chain rather than going straight across and under the master cylinder. I kind of wanted an angle, so I went like in front of the line coming out of this side, and then behind the one coming out on this side. So it's a little different angle now, and I think it's actually going to give me a much better seal that way. And I've had it sitting at just over 10 psi here for a while. I don't hear anything leaking out. The needle seems to be pretty stable at this point. Also, I ran a little bit of Teflon tape around this connector here. I think it would be really good to do the quick connect idea. Figure, you can connect your air compressor at 120 psi or whatever with those things. I don't see why this wouldn't work. Just saying. Now, since I only have this one adapter, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal for me because all my reservoirs are going to use this particular adapter. Now, again, if you're going from your Jeep to your Corvette over to the Talon, whatever the case may be, and you're going to be disconnecting and reconnecting this thing, you're going to be running through this Teflon tape like there's no tomorrow. Okay, so really, how often do we bleed brakes? But you're going to do it often enough, and for the convenience of the thing, I think it makes a lot of sense to just be able to snap it apart and be done. So let's take one more look here, and we're still right about 10.5 psi, so I think we're good. I'm going to go ahead and get some brake fluid in here, and then we'll start going around and bleeding the lines. So there's no pressure relief valve on here. I think that's probably the one downside to the unit. Some of the more advanced ones may have that. I didn't do a whole lot of research, but you might want to see if they do, because I just think, I'm going to be disconnecting this thing. Of course, it's only 10 psi, so it's not that much, but it might give us a little shock. So let's see how it actually happens. That's not too bad. Drained the pressure gauge down to 0, and this thing comes out pretty simply if I can get around the hose. And there you have it, just a standard bottle pump. Now, the one that I got here takes up to 2 quarts of brake fluid. You can use it for your clutch as well. Now granted, brake fluid and clutch fluid, not quite the same, are they? I don't know. If they are, they're hydraulic fluids of sorts. If there's any difference in the fluids, you're going to want to clean this thing out really well before you switch from one to the other, because you want the right stuff in the right device. So I have about 3/4 of a bottle here, so I'm just going to go ahead and dump the whole thing in here. Glug, 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 glug. That way I should have plenty of fluid in here. And those brake lines are, not that big around, right? So, whoa, careful not to dump a whole bottle of brake fluid on the floor. You just tighten this bugger back up. Kind of unwieldy, I guess. And then off we go again. Pump away. Now there's a note on the bottle that actually says, refer to your owner's manual for how much pressure to bleed your lines. Oh, I do want to point this out. You can see kind of the fluid is starting to fill up the hose. Hopefully it's catching it on this camera. Zoom in a little bit. as I pump this up, it's actually going to start pushing fluid into the reservoir down there. And as I do this, that should get us pretty ready. There we go. Kind of see how the bubbles are going. Some real good pressure in here now. I think I'm going to actually hold the bottle up so I can get as much of the air bubbles out as possible. So now I've got fluid all the way up to here, which I'm holding way up high. You can kind of see some of those bubbles coming out of that master reservoir. I am also being very careful that I'm not shaking the hose very tightly. Yeah, it's moving around a bit. See the bubbles coming up. It's moving around a little bit, but I'm not tugging on it because I don't want to break this seal here, right? I'm at 11 psi already. This seems like it's doing a really good job of getting the air bubbles out of that reservoir for me. I think this thing might actually be a winner, man. I'm making sure I'm keeping this bottle upright because there's a little hose that runs down the side and into the bottom here. So if I were to tilt this, then I'm going to just be pushing air in there, and that's not what I want to do. So I'm making sure that I keep that fill hose kind of vertical, right? Again, you know, you've used the garden sprayer. I think this conceptually is pretty much, you know, the same thing. And I'm getting to be about 14 psi here. So just get it to about 15 here. I don't have fluid spraying everywhere yet, so I think we're got a pretty good sign here. So a little over 15 psi. So I locked the handle in place. It's got the same kind of twist lock mechanism as the garden sprayer. I'm trying to make sure that all the bubbles that are in there are coming out. I don't see any more coming out now. Oh. Yes, I do. I'm kind of tapping this. There it goes. There they go. There they go. So, pretty sure what we want to do is actually get all those bubbles out as much as possible. And as we do that, that's going to get this reservoir completely full, right? And just check the pressure. Got more air in the tank now than I did before, so I'm just going to pop it up just a little bit. And as we, you know, go around each of the wheels, we're going to make sure that this pressure stays up. Because if we don't, we're going to end up with air back in the lines. So we want to be keeping these bubbles that are coming out of here. We're going to want all of those out of here as much as possible. And yeah, there we go. And as that fluid comes out of this tank, down that hose, the pressure does drop a little bit. But what I'm not seeing, I'm going to do the finger check here in a second. What I'm not seeing is any fluid coming around the bottom of this thing, which is a very, very good sign, and I've got a good seal. I'm just going to let these bubbles work their way up a little bit before I do anything. I'm going to prop this thing up here. I wonder what's the best way to do this. Look at that. How about that? Kind of see the gauge? And the bubbles coming up. I want to make sure I'm completely full. Also, I've got the car on jack stands right now. And it is level. It's just as it would sit normally. I don't know if that's the best way to go about this. I've got on jack stands, all the wheels are off, so I can just go around to each wheel and bleed them out in their normal order. So we're going to start at the back passenger side, move over to the driver's side, then move up to the front passenger and driver's side. Alright. Still do not see any fluid coming out. Love that. That's definitely a good sign. Give ourselves a maintenance pump. That's pushing a little bit more air up in there. I've got to believe we're getting close to empty on the air in there. Just give it a flick here every once in a while, because I think that's actually doing something for me. It's almost like you want this thing hanging, you know, from higher up to make sure that those bubbles come up, huh? I think I'm gonna try that. I've got a ton of bubbles still coming up here. Let me get a piece of coat hanger here. I think this might help the cause. Alright. What I'm going to do, so that it kind of hangs onto this thing, I've crossed it. Now, there we go. I think that should work. Give you a better view here. I've got the coat hanger just going around the handle. It keeps the thing up a little bit more. Level this thing out a little bit. I don't know. Gotta be relatively close, I guess. Just kind of straighten out the line a little bit. Tap it. I don't know whether it's sucking air from around the edge. Enough to get air in, but not out. I don't know. Still holding at 15.5. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and get that piece of hose. I'll go to the back wheel here, get myself a catch bottle, and we'll try this out. Disconnect you from the stand again. Yeah, I'll take the stand with me. Yeah, shade for the child. Whoops, I am using the wrong levers on this stand. Trying to figure out the best way to get you vantage point here. Alright, now crawl under here and find our bleeder valve, cover up, or uncover it, and try and get this piece of hose over it, which the hose is actually pretty stiff, so this might cause some difficulty. I wonder if soften it up a little bit with, I don't know, heat gun or something might actually help. What I'm going to try to do here is turn the camera off while I get this thing on here.